Well, I agree with the statement his own officials have made, and I mean the president has made similar statements about aspirational goals and getting the Panama Canal back under our control and other things. Listen, where are we here? Let's unpack it a little bit for our audience, because we're clearly in a different phase. We went to a ceasefire on April the 7th after 38 days of military operations. They had 14 days to go. And we gave up finishing those military objectives because our priorities essentially changed. And why was that? Well, the Iranians took control of the Strait of Hormuz and shut it down on March the 2nd. And we were living with that for a month. And therefore, our priorities in terms of economic priorities, oil and gas prices, political priorities dealing with the upcoming midterm elections became paramount. And that's why we went to the ceasefire. The Iranians were offering, Kayleigh, a negotiated deal over the Straits of Hormuz. And of course, we know even when they signed a deal with our president, that blew up in our faces. So the diplomatic phase that we entered into as a primary objective really hasn't worked out very well. But we, on April the 13th, obviously a week after the ceasefire, to help with that diplomatic phase, we put in a naval blockade. And that put huge economic pressure on the regime, but not enough pressure on them to obviously make a deal that they're willing to comply with. So now we're in an increased economic phase. Secretary Besant is imposing every possible economic restraint that he can impose externally on this regime. And it's quality work that he and his team are clearly doing. So the objective here is to mount as much economic pressure on the regime as possible in the upcoming weeks, knowing full well that the military is in place. The Israelis are at full magazine depth, and Admiral Cooper, CENTCOM forces in the region, we actually have more capability now in the region than we had when we began the war on February the 28th. So that obviously is on standby. I think what will likely happen here, we have to be prepared for the Iranians to make another miscalculation, Kayleigh. And what do I mean by that? Because I think as we get closer to the midterms, they're going to think that if they conduct some aggressive, violent acts against U.S. bases or allies in the region, we won't do anything about it because the midterms are coming, and that would sort of poison the well in terms of the election itself. President Trump will respond if Iran takes that kind of action, in my judgment. So we'll see what happens over the next several weeks as the economic pressure builds. Where the Iranians are in their heads, they believe they can ride this out economically. That's where they are, and we have to understand that. And we're 4 months into this kind of economic pressure already, and they obviously have not relented or even been willing to go into any serious negotiations that they're willing to comply with. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen over the next several weeks here.
General Kane, I want to ask you about another situation that's been playing out in the media, and that's the deployment of the USS Abraham. The president and others have been critical of the media for talking about this issue because, after all, these are U.S. service members. They're deployed. However, it's been a long time, 266 days deployed, 200 days in a combat zone. The statement from the acting secretary of the Navy says they will return home soon for part of a planned rotation. Your thought? These are very hard decisions for a commander-in-chief to make, and these are very big sacrifices that our troops are making each and every day.
Yeah, well, they certainly do, and they're trained and they're disciplined. And when they're doing something like this, and they know the significance of it, morale is very good. There's a sense of purpose and meaning in what they're doing. They obviously would like to be on a normal rotation, but this is not a normal rotation. This is war. I mean, while troops were in Iraq and Afghanistan for 12 months and 15-month tours, and the Navy was supporting that. And now the Navy and our air power, but the Navy's deployed and more isolated than our air power is certainly, and they certainly can deal with that. CENTCOM commander just left that ship, the Abraham Lincoln, by the way, and he said it was very, very impressive seeing the quality of what is happening there and the troops themselves. And I think they've taken a couple of incidents that we always have. Listen, there's always stress on our troops. And some of them do need counseling as a result of that stress. I mean, this is not normal in terms of the pressure that's on a human being here. So that takes place routinely. But the idea of people that diving off these ships and committing suicide, that's just not the facts. And they're taking a misinterpretation of them and sensationalize them. And that's really unfortunate because it's insulting to the troops who are out there and the performance that they have turned in here and will continue to turn in.
Yes, and while the acting secretary said there have been some mental health issues, there has been no loss of life, and we pray for our service members every day during their deployments. General Jack Keane, thank you so much.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
For more on this, let's bring in the former ambassador at large and counterterrorism coordinator under President Trump's first term, Nathan Sales. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for joining us today.
Great to be here.
So, everyone controls the strait, apparently. It seems like we're going in circles here. What is the state of play here, and how does the administration break out of it?
Yeah. War is a test of will, but diplomacy is also a test of wills. And right now, what we're seeing is both sides digging in their heels and refusing to budge. Long term, I think the United States has a strategic advantage here because we have the ability to crush Iran's economy. We're imposing a blockade, we're imposing sanctions, and this is costing Iran an estimated $435 million a day. And that starts to add up with an economy that's already fragile. Now, Iran knows this, and what they're trying to do is weaponize the strait in a similar way and impose pain on the United States and our Gulf partners and the rest of the world. And the question is, who's going to blink first? Who has a higher threshold for economic pain? I think it's the United States. I think our economy is much more resilient and durable, and the Iranians are really grasping at straws here. But ultimately, war and diplomacy alike, who is going to be able to impose their will on the adversary?
During President Trump's first term, you were at state, I was covering state. It was the time of maximum pressure where the U.S. was putting maximum diplomatic sanctions pressure against Iran. This is a regime that appears on the surface to have very little concern for the well-being of its citizens, let's say. How difficult is it to compel the Iranian regime to actually change its behavior? It seems like this is something the U.S. has been at for years.
So we don't want our sanctions to impose pain on the innocent Iranian people because they've been suffering under this regime for 47 years. They are our friends. They are our natural allies. We have a shared interest in the regime having less power, less influence. Now, how do you impose pain on the regime? What you do is you target the IRGC. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is not just the shock troops of the Islamic Revolution. They also run the economy. They have so penetrated the Iranian economy.
Those at Treasury and State to keep up with how the IRGC transforms itself and how it tries to evade American sanctions and that underground economy that it has developed and profited on as a result of these sanctions?
Yeah, it's a great question. And our sanctions targeters are the best in the business. They have information from open source. They have other kinds of information that they use to identify underneath the surface what are the moving pieces that are evolving and changing in order for the Iranians to sustain their campaign of sanctions evasion. It's a game of whack-a-mole. We've got a really big hammer. That's the good news. But we have to constantly be vigilant to identify those evolutions to keep the pressure up.
And part of this game, or not game, it's a war of making sure that one side outlasts the other. There is concern of reporting that the U.S. weapon stockpiles, particularly Reaper drones. I think the Washington Post said the military has lost roughly 25% of its Reaper drones. How much of a vulnerability is that for the U.S.?
It's a big problem, and this is a wake-up call. It's like the third or fourth wake-up call about the state of the U.S. defense industrial base. We clearly need to be doing a better job. We need to innovate our way out of this problem. We need to put more resources. Congress needs to appropriate more money for airplanes, for other platforms, for munitions, because it's not just about Iran. It's about China and Russia, because those adversaries are watching. Are we able to sustain a fight? And that's how you avoid a fight, is to demonstrate convincingly to your enemies like Russia, like China, that we have an overwhelming military advantage over them. If our defense industrial base can't keep up, the Russians are going to test us and the Chinese are going to test us.
Okay, Ambassador Nathan Sales, thanks for joining us.
Great to see you, Rich.
Appreciate it.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
A historic decline in crime rates nationwide. A new FBI report reveals the biggest one-year drop in violent crime ever. President Trump touted the numbers at a rally yesterday on Long Island, New York.
That was before my father was born. Think of it, 125 years ago, we broke the record. It's amazing. It's amazing. So I just want to thank all of the people in this room.
Our Alex Hogan has the latest live from the White House today. Alex.
Hi, Brian. So President Trump praised law enforcement and celebrated some of these numbers that were released by the FBI. So take a look at some of these new numbers that show the difference between 2024 and 2025. Homicides dropped by 18%. Rape decreased by more than 7%. Cases of robbery decreased by roughly 18%. Property crime dropped by 12%. And aggravated assault decreased by roughly 7%. At the event, Trump also turned to the conflict in Iran, saying that the U.S. has total control over the Strait of Hormuz.
Pretty soon I'll be declaring the Hormuz Strait a territory of the United States.
Iran's deputy foreign minister rejected those claims today, writing the Strait of Hormuz cannot be seized with a tweet, an aircraft carrier, an executive order, or an election speech. New attention also on the USS Abraham Lincoln over reports of mental health issues on board. The San Diego-based aircraft carrier has been deployed for 9 months, which includes a record-setting time at sea of more than 200 days.
No. Not nearly long enough. Thank you, everybody.
Well, Democrats quickly blasting the president over that comment yesterday, although General Jack Keane appeared on Fox today arguing that these reports are being over-sensationalized.
He's the commander-in-chief, and he is responsible ultimately for the conditions of the captains that he puts in command of the carrier strike group that's affecting these sailors and Marines.
The idea of people that diving off these ships and committing suicide, that's just not the facts. And they're taking a misinterpretation of them and sensationalize them. And that's really unfortunate because it's insulting to the troops who are out there and the performance that they have turned in here.
The president says that ship is being relieved by the Brian.
Our Alex Hogan live at the White House. Alex, thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
The Strait of Hormuz cannot be seized by tweet or executive order. That's Iran's response to President Trump's threat to soon declare the key waterway part of U.S. territory. I'm Brian Yennis, in for John Scott, and this is a brand new hour of the Fox Report. Tehran says it's made no decision on when to resume talks with the U.S. as the fragile ceasefire is set to expire on Monday. CENTCOM says it's redirected more than 60 commercial ships in the strait. Our Jonathan Hunt is in Israel with the very latest. Jonathan.
Good evening, Brian. President Trump has, of course, repeatedly said that the U.S. controls the Strait of Hormuz and intends to keep the situation that way. But now he's adding an extra comment to those promises that he's made, suggesting that the Strait of Hormuz could in fact become essentially part of the United States. Listen here.
After we finish defeating Iran, which is being very badly defeated, pretty soon I'll be declaring the Hormuz Strait a territory of the United States.
Now, given the slight giggle that the president seemed to follow that sentence with, you can probably bet that he's talking figuratively rather than literally, meaning he believes that U.S. naval blockade can remain in place pretty much indefinitely. Iran says, though, whatever the U.S. Navy is doing, Iran, actually controls the Strait of Hormuz, and it will stay that way, according to them. The Iranian deputy foreign minister, the latest to make such comments, writing next, quote, "The Strait of Hormuz Hormuz cannot be seized by tweet, nor by aircraft carrier, nor by issuing an order, nor by an election speech. Iran neither fears threats nor cowers before displays of power. So we're essentially in a stalemate for the moment, at least, Brian, in terms of words and actions, although it is worth looking at an upcoming deadline of Monday. Remember the Memorandum of Understanding signed between Iran and the U.S. back in June? Nobody's paid much attention to it, of course, but it had a 60-day ceasefire written into it. That ceasefire runs out on Monday. A deadline to watch, Brian.
No doubt about it. Our Jonathan Hunt live in Tel Aviv. Jonathan, thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
Middle East, the 60-day ceasefire agreement with Iran is set to expire tomorrow as tensions still remain very high.
Madeline Rivera has the latest from Washington, D.C. Good morning, Maddie.
Hi, good morning. So that ceasefire agreement is ending without a deal to end the war. It had been interrupted by those strikes. The U.S. paused its attacks at the end of July in order to give diplomacy some room, administration officials say. But there had been reports that the tit-for-tat had depleted U.S. interceptors and munitions, potentially constraining the president. The president has pushed back against those reports. Still, he's turning to economic pressure now to inflict pain on the regime.
We're capable of really destroying the whole place. We don't want to do that. We have got economic sanctions against them like nobody's ever had before. We own, in the true sense, we own the Hormuz Strait. If they hit, we would hit back 100 times harder.
Former Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi is continuing to advocate for Iranians to resist. A post from his press office states, "Take back Iran from dialogues with Iranian groups and experts to connections with international politicians and institutions are part of the effort to strengthen national forces, carry the voice of the Iranian nation to the world, and take action to reclaim Iran." During President Trump's speech on Friday, he alluded to the complications in the talks, saying it's difficult to negotiate with a fractured leadership in Tehran. Charlie Waitch with.
Maddie.
Thanks,
Thank you, Maddie.
Yeah, interesting comment there from Reza Pahlavi, noting that the people of Iran have been noticeably, for a lot of perhaps good reasons, given the fact that many of them have been killed by the regime. But interesting that he's calling on them to rise up because, of course, that is the biggest answer to this problem.
Yeah, the other problem is that oftentimes, and there have been a lot of reports out of Washington about this, and those who are negotiating, Israel keeps killing the negotiators, so it's really hard to come to a deal with some of these negotiators. And I think, as we've been just talking about the midterms, there is a path because there's a lot of to victory for the Republicans, as much of a slog as it will be to get there in November. If the president could wrap up this war, if he could, declare victory, and we all know that the nuclear site was, very much damaged, if not set back, many years, in Operation Midnight Hammer last summer. And as he mentioned just to Alexis McAdams, that there's been a lot of economic pressure placed as never before on Iran. I think there's a lot that has been done. He could declare victory. He could move on. And I think it would impact prices, oil and gas prices. And I think that would make November a lot easier. But we have to get our partner Israel on board as well. They've said that no matter what deal the president puts forward, they're going to continue what they want to do, which is, war and bombing in Lebanon. And that's been a real sticking point for the Iranians in coming to an agreement.
It is, but I think it's worth pointing out, and both President Trump and Vice President Vance have said in recent days that it is the Iranian negotiators, right? It's Arachi, the foreign minister, and others that are not willing to come to the negotiating table right now. So we'll see if tomorrow's deadline has any impact in this sort of on and off.
Hopefully we'll come to some agreement.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
Well, the U.S. 60-day ceasefire agreement with Iran is set to expire tomorrow as tensions still remain high. Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst joins us from Tel Aviv with the latest. Trey, good morning.
Yeah, hey, Rachel, good morning. Monday will mark 60 days since the Memorandum of Understanding was signed between the United States and Iran, and technically it is set to expire. Reports indicate very little progress on a diplomatic solution to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and address Iran's nuclear ambitions. This weekend, Iran continued attacks in the strait. On Saturday, a bulk carrier reported being hit by an unknown projectile. A day prior, an Emirati oil vessel was also targeted. President Trump spoke on Friday about the conflict with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz.
After we finish defeating Iran, which is being very badly defeated, pretty soon I'll be declaring the Hormuz Strait a territory of the United States. Essentially, that's what it is. We have the blockade. No ships get through unless we want them to.
With a focus on Iran, we're also tracking the latest developments between Israel and Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah violated the ceasefire over the weekend, wounding 3 Israeli soldiers. This prompted Israel to launch a new round of airstrikes against targets in southern Lebanon.
Hezbollah committed 2 major violations today. They struck Israeli troops who were operating in the security zone in contravention of the ceasefire agreement. And then when Israel responded, they moved civilians inside their terrorist headquarters. They used their own civilians as human shields so that later on they could point at Israel and say that Israel is targeting civilians, which we are not doing.
Overnight, the Israeli military warned residents in northern Israel to be prepared for loud explosions along the border as operations against Hezbollah continue. Rachel?
Trey, have civilians been targeted in Lebanon, or is that a correct report from the Israeli government?
The initial reports from southern Lebanon indicate that both Hezbollah operatives and civilians were killed in these limited Israeli strikes. But broadly speaking, the strikes have decreased. The Israelis have only launched fresh airstrikes whenever the violations occurred. And Hezbollah says they may respond to these new Israeli strikes. So a lot of tension along that northern border as the region waits to see if a broader agreement can be reached.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
Good morning to you, Charlie. To my eyes and ears, when the president said during that speech yesterday that he would shortly declare the Strait of Hormuz a U.S. territory, he had a hint of sarcasm and a slight smile. I think it's fairly safe to say he was talking figuratively rather than literally, meaning that the U.S. would maintain control over the strait through the naval blockade, the assets, the military assets it has there. In that same speech, the president also addressed the economic pain that many Americans are feeling as a result of this war, and he promised it will be worth it. Listen here.
For you to pay a tiny little bit more for your gasoline, just remember, you're doing it so that a very evil country cannot have a country. Really, it's the number 1 state sponsor of terror in the world. They have no leadership. Their leadership is gone. Their first tour is gone. Their second tour is gone. Their third tour is half gone. That's one of my problems. There's nobody to negotiate with. It is a problem.
But you would have to say that the Iranian leadership has been largely speaking with one voice over this past week in regards to the situation in the Strait of Hormuz, saying that they control it and that no ships should pass without their prior approval. The Iran's deputy foreign minister, the latest to weigh in today via X, saying, quote, "The Strait of Hormuz cannot be seized by tweet, nor by aircraft carrier, nor by issuing an order, nor by an election speech. Iran neither fears threats nor cowers before displays of power." So we seem, Charlie, to be in something of a stalemate right now. Charlie?
Indeed. Jonathan Hunt in Tel Aviv. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
Podcast, hanging out with me, Sean Hannity. The big interviews, the debates you won't get anywhere else. Like and subscribe for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. Hit a respondent. The big interviews, the debates you won't get anywhere else. Like and subscribe for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday.
Luigi Mangione pleading guilty in a dramatic court appearance yesterday to the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. In a stunning admission, Mangione admitted to emailing United Healthcare leadership to gather information on the conference, where he eventually murdered the company's CEO, and said he used a 3D printer to make part of a gun. His defense team is now working to have the New York case thrown out on double jeopardy grounds. Joining us now is Fox News contributor and George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley. Professor Turley, so great to see you this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Charlie.
First of all, give us your big picture view of what happened yesterday and what we can expect going forward.
Well, the interesting aspect about what happened yesterday is that the New York case is the case that involves the murder charges, but it was also the case, and is the case, that has a lower potential ceiling for the sentencing. So in the federal case, which he just pleaded guilty to, there's a possibility of life without parole. In the state system, they don't have that without parole option. So what he's doing here is something of a Hail Mary throw. He's suggesting that perhaps the judge will sort of bring down that sentence, give him a chance to possibly eventually leave prison at a rather advanced age, but not life without parole. The move of the defense is to get rid of the state case under what's called double jeopardy, because the New York provision of double jeopardy is much more difficult to satisfy for the prosecutors. So the odds are in his favor, if you look at past cases, that may in fact be dismissed.
So there is still a chance that he could go to prison for life, but before that, we will get the decision on whether or not their claims about double jeopardy protect him from New York State's prosecution. I want to switch gears to another case that would have gotten a whole lot of coverage yesterday had it not been for this surprise agreement from Luigi Mangione's lawyers. Alex Murdaugh in South Carolina is getting a new trial. In fact, his legal team, has won an early victory with the judge allowing defense attorneys to evaluate the DNA evidence under his wife Maggie's fingernails. How will this new trial look different from the blockbuster trial we saw last year?
Well, I thought the judge did a particularly good job yesterday. She's well regarded. She moved these issues along. She didn't prolong any of these debates, and I think she got it right. I think the best thing for her to do is to have that DNA evidence tested. She also made a major ruling that his prior testimony could be used in his new trial. And she was also right on that, in my view. That may indicate that he doesn't have any advantage in not testifying. That since his previous testimony can be used, he might as well take the stand, because he doesn't have that option anymore, in the sense that he can refuse to testify, certainly, but his words are still going to be used from the prior trial. So it may increase the chances. He will get to a new venue. And again, I think the court was erring on the side of caution and on the side of a fair trial, and saying, well, let's go ahead and move this thing so there's not any question here as to the jury pool or any bias from the coverage.
Jonathan Turley, we'll always appreciate it, and we look forward to your analysis as that case goes on.
Thank you, Charlie.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox 1.
Meanwhile, President Trump also addressing Iran while in New York.
The commander-in-chief floating the idea of making the Strait of Hormuz a U.S. territory.
Madeline Rivera joins us live from Washington, D.C. with more. Madeline?
Hi, good morning. President Trump says he did the right thing when it comes to the conflict. He says he won't apologize even as gas prices remain elevated, saying Iran is the #1 state sponsor of terror in the world. And then he made this comment regarding the Strait of Hormuz.
After we finish defeating Iran, which is being very badly defeated, pretty soon I'll be declaring the Hormuz Strait a territory of the United States. We have the blockade. No ships get through unless we want them to.
President Trump has previously claimed the U.S. has control of the waterway. As of August 12th, CENTCOM says the U.S. has redirected 59 commercial vessels, disabled 3, and boarded 2 ships to make sure they are complying with the blockade. But Iran argues it maintains the strait. Its deputy foreign minister is saying the Strait of Hormuz cannot be seized by tweet, nor by aircraft carrier, nor by issuing an order, nor by an election speech. Iran neither fears threats nor cowers before displays of power. The Strait of Hormuz has been Iranian, is Iranian, and will remain Iranian. Negotiations over a peace deal have stalled as Iran demands more leverage over the route. This comes as the United Arab Emirates blames Iran for firing drones at 2 tankers sailing through the strait Friday. The tankers were operated by a state-owned oil company. There were no deaths, but the UAE called the attacks acts of piracy. Charlie Rachel with.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox 1.
Virginia State University is on lockdown this morning after a shooting involved multiple suspects. Police confirming those details, saying a number of people were hospitalized. The university posting this statement on their X account roughly an hour ago, confirming the lockdown, writing in part, "At this time, none of the injuries appear to be life-threatening." They're also urging everyone to avoid the residential area where it happened. No word on any arrests. Campus police are investigating alongside county officials. We are monitoring this breaking story and will bring you the latest throughout the morning.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox 1.
Again, be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox 1.
The midterms and the rise of the far left during his recent trip to New York.
And she's here now with all of the details on our one-on-one. Alexis McAdams, great job.
Thank you. Well, we were excited to get some time with President Trump while he was here in New York City, and we covered a lot of ground with President Trump. The war with Iran, the midterms, and the future of the Democratic Party. As President Trump tells me, he thinks Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will be...
You're going to see sanctuary cities start to end because sanctuary cities are a disaster.
And as AOC and some other Democrats try and move away from some of those woke policies they once embraced and campaigned on, like defunding the police, President Trump says voters should not buy that. She'll weigh in on one of the biggest Senate races in the country in Michigan, where Democrat Abdul Sayed is under fire for past comments comparing the ethics of American football to the transatlantic slave trade. One of the things that's really sticking to Michigan, since they love football, is that he thinks football is tied to slavery and he thinks it's toxic masculinity. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a very place when you have Michigan. It's a very bad place to be saying it. They have a great football team and the number of great football teams up there that the people love. I would say that that's a big mistake.
That's right. And it is a sticking point for people there in Michigan. In the Midwest, they love football. And on Iran, I asked President Trump whether the midterms will change his response if Tehran escalates.
They make bomb. If you look, they cannot have nuclear weapons.
And with the midterms closing in, Trump does know that voters are watching those gas prices. He talked about the prices he saw the other week in Iowa. He vows, though, to keep the pressure on Iran. We thank the president for his time and getting a lot of headlines out of that interview, guys.
A lot of headlines. Great job. You covered quite a lot of ground.
Thank you.
Alexis
Thanks for having me on.
Well done.
Well done, indeed. All right. Well, let's bring in our Saturday in America anchor, Kayleigh McEnany, to talk a little bit about that. So the president says that AOC will run. He says, once elected, the woke will be woke again. So don't believe all of that. So what is your take?
I think he's exactly right. AOC is going to run. She probably has a fair shot at the nomination if she has the capacity to stand on a debate stage and go toe-to-toe with people who do adversarial media, like Pete Buttigieg. She doesn't often go out in adversarial settings, so I don't know if she has the chops for a debate stage. We'll see. But he's right about the woke part, because I remember when there was this big headline coming out, Kamala Harris's internal polls showed that the woke ad on trans moved the electorate by 2.5 percentage points. And there was this dial back for a moment. You remember Gavin Newsom equivocating on whether biological men should be in women's sports, but then they went all in again. And what do you think when they have the levers of power? They will go all in fully.
Of course, and they'll open the border.
Well,
yes. Oh, yeah.
Abolishing ICE was under woke one, and now it's back even harsher. And you're seeing it as almost one of the main platforms. We'll find out. The DNC is having their meeting this weekend. We'll see if they embrace it as a top priority issue. But AOC is going to have to start, it looks like, in South Carolina. So if she actually really ran, could she go through this, what appears to be the new field of South Carolina, then Nevada, then New Hampshire?
She won't win South Carolina, in my estimation. However, South Carolina doesn't tell the whole story. A place like New Hampshire, even if it's later in the map, you could see her surge. It's kind of the Bernie Sanders path where it became Bernie and Hillary.
That's right.
And Bernie, didn't do well in South Carolina, but he did do well in some of the other states. So we'll see. I don't know the answer to that, but to your point about abolish ICE too, I would just say this. I remember being at the RNC when people were saying abolish ICE, and there was this panic at the DNC. We can't say this. We can't say this. And that was 2018, and oh, how far we've come. Now we say it loudly.
The irony is she's the one who started it.
Yes.
She can't back away from it. It's one thing to say, well, my crazy colleagues. She literally started it. And remember, she was talking about that when she was wearing the white jeans and she was crying outside the detention centers. She was saying abolish ICE.
And of course, don't ever forget that the reason that was where the whole canard began about drinking out of the toilets. And the reason that AOC told everybody that the migrants at the border were drinking out of toilets is because she doesn't really actually speak Spanish very well. And so she misunderstood what the people had said to her in Spanish, and she translated it all wrong. So your point is so dead on. We have no idea what she's going to be like on a debate stage. She does friendly media. She does her own media. She's very good at that stuff. But we'll see what happens when, you go toe-to-toe.
Do you remember when she did the event overseas? And what was that event? It was the security conference.
Taiwan.
Yeah.
And then she floundered in that setting. So we shall see. But she is formidable.
Yeah.
She's got charisma.
She has the social media authenticity of showing her life on social media, which is a big thing. But here's the difference. President Donald Trump, he had the policies, but he wasn't afraid of a microphone. If you had a microphone, he would be there. Whether you were CNN, whether you were hostile ABC, he would stand there and take the questions. You don't see her doing that. Kamala Harris also shied away from adversarial press. The people who have leaned in, like Pete Buttigieg, are the ones who are going to have the chops on the debate stage.
One of the greatest skills in politics is to be shameless. And she is shameless, and watching her try to rewrite history right now is the most shameless thing ever. And, sadly, it works. But somebody who, maybe this is not exactly rewriting history, this is a glimpse into what history was like at the time. Back, Terry Moran, former ABC correspondent, talking about a package he put together late after a lot of other people had done the story about the Wuhan lab of virology. And talking about how ABC apparently went to Fauci to get the package scrubbed by the government before airing it. Watch this.
I'll tell you the story of the one time that I did feel the heavy hand of censorship in my work at ABC News. Early in 2021, maybe January, February, I'm seeing online and elsewhere people that I thought were smart and serious, Jamie Menzel mostly saying, and others, maybe this leaked from the lab. And the day that it's supposed to air, it gets reviewed. And it comes back to me, and I was told, Fauci.
Wait, so they took the story that you did and either sent a copy of a transcript or a copy of the video to Anthony Fauci?
I don't know that that's true personally, but I was told that.
A little unclear. He says 2021 there, and maybe he means 2020, but not only did he go along with the government cover-up and didn't say anything about it until now, he also can't get his facts right.
No, he can't. And what's so interesting to me, so Fauci...
Welcome back. As maritime traffic remains on high alert in the Strait of Hormuz, another of the world's vital waterways is facing increased tension, the South China Sea. On Friday, China slammed Taiwan's annual military exercises as a, quote, wasteful charade, claiming Taipei is stoking panic of a potential war with the communist nation. Taiwan spent 10 days carrying out its largest military drills ever, simulating what a possible attack from China would look like. Joining me now with analysis is former Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates. Victoria, thank you for being here this morning. And this is all coming in the backdrop of President Xi coming to meet with President Trump September 24th. And I'm thinking about all the things that they have to talk about, but I imagine this will be on the list as well. And I'm wondering if China sees this window right now where the Iran conflict continues as maybe a potential pocket of weakness to come at President Trump. I mean, Taiwan is obviously exercising these drills for some reason.
Well, good morning, Jackie. Good to be with you. And yes, I think the summit on September 24th is going to be a very packed agenda. Lots to discuss with Chairman Xi and President Trump. But I actually think President Trump is coming in a position of strength because as Xi looks at the things that he's accomplished in the last 6 months, both the Operation Epic Fury and the operation against Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, China doesn't have that kind of force projection capability yet. So I think that we are in a strong position, but this is why it's so important. The Senate acts and passes the NDAA, funds our military, agrees to the president historic $1.5 trillion budget request for our military. We just can't play games with this anymore because it is really serious.
Yeah, you're bringing up a really important point. Another thing I think they'll talk about is artificial intelligence. Obviously, we are in a huge race with China, and President Trump has been a proponent of AI here in the United States. He wants it to move forward, and he wants us to win. But that does not mean that the Chinese are sitting back in any way. They're trying to innovate as quickly as possible. But we're dealing with a little push-pull here on regulation. Should we be regulating our own industry when other nations are not? We're looking at some of the risks and trying to balance all that, but at the same time, our competition doesn't have those kind of guardrails.
No, and this is going to be, I think, really the defining issue of the second half of President Trump's second term. You know, that how are we going to manage AI? Because there's going to be a Chinese platform. There's going to be an American platform. We need to establish the gold standard in terms of both capability and safety, because China won't. They're just going to try to exploit it. And we also need to make sure we are fostering our innovation base. We are much, much, much more innovative than they are. That's why they all want to come to university here and come work in Silicon Valley, because we're the ones who are inventing things. So this is our critical edge. We call it the qualitative technological edge. There's also a qualitative military edge. This is just as important as our military now. And that's what we can offer partners and allies. It's one of the reasons I think you're seeing so many countries around the world, even former enemies like Vietnam, start to pull closer to the United States because they know we're going to be the partner of choice. But we have to make sure that we're keeping our strength up and we're investing where we need to.
Yeah, and the president seems to be doing that. I've just got 30 seconds left for your final word, Victoria.
Right. You know, I mean, I think this is America's promise for the future. It goes hand in hand with our energy resources, which are going to fuel the world. We're probably going to get more sanctions on Iran coming this week. They probably are going to be China related. That's more for that agenda in September. But I think that we're going to have, we're going to come out on top on this one.
And the sanctions have been very powerful. You starve their economic stream and all their power erodes. Thank you so much, former Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates. Great to see you this morning.
Thank you, Jackie.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One. Fox News correspondent Alex Hogan is at the White House. Hello, Alex.
Good morning, Shannon. According to the sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now.
দোস্ত বুঝলি গ্রাজুয়েশনের পর চাকরির সাথে সাথে আমাদের অ্যাসেট বিল্ডিং এ ফোকাস করতে হবে মানে এই যেমন
So joining us now, newly confirmed U.S.
dime from this settlement. But what we did do and what remains the case is that any existing audits are no longer. Now, that doesn't mean moving forward, there's no protection. So anything that the president files or that Trump work files going forward, that has nothing to do with it. And it also is only for the people named in the plaintiffs named in the lawsuit. Okay. Again, a lot of rhetoric around that was I think used by Democrats.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
Fox News
Sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.